Welcome to the Crypto News. In this video, Kevin O'Leary shares his thoughts about Bitcoin and NFT. This is what he says.
I would be very encouraged by one index that I don't think enough people have considered. Bitcoin 2022, came out of nowhere and has become the de facto global gathering of Bitcoin, the granddaddy digital asset. This year, it's going to run for 3 days. It's taken over the entire convention center in Miami where I live. That's a big facility. But what's remarkable, the first day, the 6th, it's all institutions and it's totally sold out. That has never happened before. That'll be 1,500 to 2,000 institutions from all around the world there to listen to different thoughts about where we're going with this thing. I'll be doing a keynote exactly on this ESG issue because it's top of the mind for everybody. I'm going to lay out the data I've got and, we'll have that discussion, but it's institutions only. That is remarkable. I think what affects price near term and midterm more than anything else is to get policy out of the U.S. regulator on Bitcoin and stable coins. The two that, if you read the Loomis bill, are really focus on Ethereum, Bitcoin, and stable coins. And so that's interesting because the fact is today, and I work in the indexing market where we try and index for institutions. I'll give you an example. If you're a sovereign wealth fund in the Middle East and you want exposure, some of these countries generate $250 million of cash a day, and they want obviously to get diversification. They already have oil, so they want the S&P 500 X energy. And 2 years ago, they started saying, well, we're not allowed to own Bitcoin, but how do we get exposure to Bitcoin volatility? And at that time, the way that was really working was many companies had raised capital in the U.S. markets that were Bitcoin miners, pure miners. They are awarded coins. They kept them on their balance sheet. And the theory was that if you owned the equities, you could get exposure in a legitimate way to the volatility. And indeed, if you look at the price of Bitcoin vis-a-vis, let's call an index of some of the popular ones, that would be Hut 8, Marathon, Riot, and Hive, which were very popular to be indexed. They really traded in tandem with Bitcoin. So it worked for a while. But that's why I talked about the four vectors. That correlation is going to fall off pretty quickly now that we have for the first time calls for carbon audits, because most of the public companies in the US that have been used for proxies have been saying, okay, we'll just buy some carbon offsets. And that worked fine. Now that the SEC wants to audit this, you can't find an auditor that's willing to sign off on that ledger, because you can't say I'm using, dirty energy to mine coin, and I bought, an acre of the Amazon forest and try and pass them off. It doesn't work. There's no way to audit carbon credits. So we are in a bit of let's call it a bit of a pickle right now. And I'll be frank and transparent on this. I have dumped all those stocks. Specifically, we owned Hut 8. We were indexing some of our my mandate. I can't own Bitcoin. I mean, I can own it personally, but if it's in an operating company, I can't do it because we don't have a regulation, a rule on that yet. And that's why most of it is actually held by high net worth and hedge funds like Roy's, where they don't have that compliance issue. I do have a compliance issue. So we indexed and it was working just great. Marathon, fantastic trading vehicle against the price of Bitcoin. Riot, Hut 8, and Hive. And so they're good liquid stocks. They're easy to get in and out of, but I don't own a single share. Dump them all. I mean, they're going to be forced. They're going to run into carbon audits, and their expenses are going to go up. And we can talk about where capital is flowing, but it certainly isn't in that model anymore. I've taken equity positions where regulators allow it, and that's primarily Canada. The NEO exchange is the preferred exchange now. It's been announced the CBOE is buying it. So it's going to be basically an American exchange, but housed in Canada. But it has companies like WonderFi on it. And now that means BitBuy's on it too. That was the first license granted by the regulator there. It trades as an equity, WNDR. And also Immutable Holdings, a company that's headquartered basically in Puerto Rico, where they are building out this huge platform for NFTs. They own NFT.com. They're a blockchain company. You can buy those equities on the NEO exchange in Canada, where the regulator allows it. Some of these companies get listed in Norway and Germany, where regulators allow it. But for me, those are also full weightings. I've got 5% weightings in those names because I want to own the picks and shovels. it's not just the gold that people made money on in the gold rush. It was the picks and shovels. So in my portfolio, I've got a lot of picks and shovels. And again, it's all software. You meet these executives in these companies, they're young, really strong engineers in there. And they don't want to work for industrial companies anymore. They want to be on the chain. That's where the future is. And they're the smartest hands. And that's where they make the most money because they're cutting edge advances in financial services. So that's the investment thesis. It's not just Bitcoin. You know, some of these equities have actually outperformed Bitcoin for me because they've had dramatic moves as markets start to recognize the merits of owning these companies.
Yeah.
But again, it's like Roy said, I bought these in, fractional prices on their first and second rounds, and now they're trading and they've moved materially. So I'm going to keep doing the same thing. I would say the other opportunity is short Marathon, short Hive, short Hut 8, and short Riot. Those stocks are going to get killed when they get their carbon audits started on them because there's nowhere to go. There's just no way to audit it. And they're not going to get an auditor to sign those statements. It's unfair in some ways. I mean, basically, this is a classic case where the nascent industry started just a few years ago by these great pioneer entrepreneurs. Right. They get shot with all the arrows because the president loves climate change mandates. And so does BlackRock, and so does the SEC now. And so does the Loomis bill. So, I mean, that's unfortunate. Right. But sometimes, the pioneers have to get the arrows so that the ones that come behind them can set up shop.
Kevin, I know you're big into NFTs as well. You've said that in 5 years' time, the market cap of all NFTs will exceed Bitcoin. I'd like for you to explain how you see that happening. And more importantly, if an investor wants to capitalize on this NFT craze, what's the best way to do it?
I don't buy JPEG NFTs. I'm not in the lazy ape thing.
Crazy
any of that. What I do is I look for use cases that create economic value. And the one I've been talking about a lot lately, there's lots of other ones, but the one that's so obvious and easy to understand because people like watches is the watch industry. So the watch industry, about 12x. So there's billions of dollars a quarter trading in secondary markets for watches. The Rolexes, the Patek Philippe's, Audemars Piguet, FP Journe, all these watches. The majority of them are fake. You see a Daytona like this go from $13,000 to $60,000. There's a lot of motivation for people to rip them off. That wouldn't happen if there'd been an NFT minted at the actual factory that micro scanned the dial at a high resolution because every dial has micro imperfections in it, and then created an NFT that traveled with the ownership. In other words, give me the ownership papers digitally. There's tremendous economic value in that. And that's an NFT market that's going to explode to the upside as once the white paper is released from the Horological Society. That's where we're going. Same with real estate, same with antique cars, same with pens, same with jewelry, same with all the collectibles that have physical value and asset that'll be turned into digital ownership and then can be moved from wallet to wallet as the watch gets traded. And the royalties can go back in the smart contract to the Rolexes and the Pateks and the FP Journes because they provided and minted the NFT in the first place. Right. That makes sense to me. The rest of the stuff, very speculative. Do I want to pay $360,000 for a lazy ape? No.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.